Okay, so thanks very much. So we're gonna just kick off. I'll start off with our first video presentation, and then we will jump to questions and answers. Okay, so off you go. For paper, let me double check. Is this paper one? That's paper one. Okay, so press play, and off you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Eden. I'm a research fellow from Future of Work Institute, Curtin University here in Perth, Australia. I'm the presenter today for our paper, How do non-work individual factors affect worker well-being in the construction industry? The paper is co-authored by Dr. Wang from Chongqing University, Dr. Sheng and Professor Griffin from Future of Work Institute. Construction workers' psychological well-being is a major concern for construction industry worldwide, and they suffer from high rates of psychological distress, anxiety, and other mental health problems. Non-work individual factors, including workers' demographics, personality, and support received from family, play a vital role in their work behavior and psychological well-being. However, the patterns through which these non-work individual factors affect employee well-being remains unclear, calling for a systematic review in this domain. This review study aims to better understand the concept of psychological well-being within the construction community and how non-work individual factors affect workers' psychological well-being. The systematic review provides not only an integrative framework to differentiate different types of psychological well-being, but also discussions on how individual factors relate to each type of psychological well-being, followed by a meta-analysis to quantify the relations. Our review focuses on individual attributes and their impact on psychological well-being of the construction workers. Psychological well-being refers to subject experience and functioning. It has received rising attention and or found related to non-work individual factors such as age, personality, and previous experience. We built upon INSESCLO's 2018 category of psychological well-being, which includes three types: hedonic, eudaimonic, and negative. The first two types of psychological well-being, hedonic and eudaimonic, both indicate positive functioning. Hedonic emphasizes the subjective experience of pleasure, comprising contentment, comfort, satisfaction. Eudaimonic emphasizes positive feelings of energy, personal growth, and learning and vitality as captured in the concept of thriving. As opposed to these two positive types, other psychological symptoms and negative well-being indicators, including stress, work-family conflict, and mental health problem, and many others, form the third category, psychological well-being, called negative psychological well-being. Workers' physical health condition, marital status, and other demographic characteristics were found impacting construction workers' experience at work, and thus in turn their psychological well-being. Besides, factors related to workers' experience in the off-work domain, such as family responsibility and relationship with partner, could also affect their attitudes and identity at workplace, their satisfaction and engagement. So we broadly categorize non-work individual factors into three aspects. The first, demographic characteristics of workers, personal attributes of workers, and support that workers receive from family that could shape their identity at work. To synthesize the existing research related to the relationship between at work. To synthesize the existing research related to the relationship between non-work individual factors and psychological well-being in the construction industry, this study was performed with three phases. Phase 1, selection of research paper. Phase 2, bibliometric analysis. Phase 3, meta-analysis. Phase 1 paper selection sets the boundary condition well satisfaction, psychological health, and abstract. In this stage, two selection criteria were applied. First, only peer-reviewed journals articles were kept for further analysis. Second, only articles with psychological well-being related keywords mentioned within the scope of construction industry in their abstract were kept. By applying this approach for eligible check, a total number of 20 out of 351 were selected for further analysis. To obtain a static and systematic flow of the research on psychological well-being in the construction industry, the bibliometric analysis was performed to map and visualize the bibliographic information of the 20 articles. The reviewed 20 articles come from 13 journals, in which the Journal of Construction Engineering and Management published the most related articles with a total citation of 254. Keywords represent the core contents of existing study and describe research topics within a given domain. Co-occurrence of the keywords demonstrates the intercloseness among them. The final visualization of the co-occurrence keywords displays that the co-occurrence of the keywords age was obviously the highest, indicating high focus on the construct. The high-frequency constructs in the reviewed paper also include mental health, emotional exhaustion, demand, attitudes, and gender. Among the 20 reviewed articles, 16 lacked a theory to explain the linkage between the non-work individual factors and psychological well-being. Conversion of resources theory is prevailed in the current literature, which was employed to explain the relationship between predictors and psychological well-being. As to the research methodology used in the review research, structural equation modeling was used most frequently to analyze the relationship between psychological well-being and non-work individual factors, followed by hierarchical regression analysis and correlation analysis. The distribution of the countries and regions where empirical data were collected were also analyzed. The number of samples from the Australian and Chinese construction industry ranked first, followed by the United States and United Kingdom. This table presents the relationship between non-work individual factors and the three types of psychological well-being. Non-work individual factors were found affecting construction workers' hedonic psychological well-being by influencing their job satisfaction and life satisfaction in general. And non-work individual factors were associated with their eudaimomic psychological well-being through the impact on work-life balance and mental health. Besides, non-work individual factors, construction workers were found associated with their negative psychological well-being. Job stress, burnout are two examples of negative psychological well-being that received much attention. Detailed information and explanation of the above relations are discussed in the conference paper. Next, a meta-analysis was conducted to quantitatively summarize how each category of predictors relates to construction workers' psychological well-being. Because meta-analysis involves synthesizing effect size from 2 or more studies to generate robust effect size estimate, so we treated the category of personal characteristics and support from family each as one predictor, combining the specific individual predictors under each category. So this allows us to quantitatively compare the strength of prediction at the category level in predicting construction workers' psychological well-being. So in the end, the meta-analysis includes a total of 26 effect size from 12 articles. Pearson correlation R was the principal measure of effect size. Each raw correlation was weighed by sample size and corrected for internal consistency reliability. As shown in the table, all categories of factors demonstrated correlation with construction workers' psychological well-being that were in the moderate range. Specifically, age was positively correlated with the psychological well-being, indicating that older workers in general enjoy better psychological well-being compared to younger workers. And gender was negatively correlated with psychological well-being, suggesting that female construction workers have worse psychological well-being compared to their male peers. And marital status was shown to have a major influence on construction workers' psychological well-being as well. And those who are married have worse psychological well-being comparing to those who are not. Personal characteristics were related to have a substantial influence on workers' psychological well-being as well. Lastly, support from family factors, including family roles, home environment, marital satisfaction, were also moderately related to workers' well-being. Although confidence interval estimate suggests that this point estimate was insignificant, but a closer examination of the existing estimate revealed that they're actually an outlier. Specifically, Liang in 24 also found that relationship satisfaction was positively related to burnout, which is negatively related to psychological well-being. The author also pointed out as a counterintuitive finding that and discussed that one possible explanation was couples who are satisfied with their marriage may place a higher value on spending time with each other. Thus, the inability to spend time with each other due to work demands could add to additional sources of burnout. So it would be important for future research to explore what kind of support non-work environment could provide to help the workers to improve their well-being outcome. To summarize, the construction industry is categorized as a stressful industry. Workers' psychological well-being is a major concern. There is a lack of a framework that aims to define different groups of psychological well-being and quantify their relationships between their predictors. So this study filled this gap by summarizing the current psychological well-being studies in construction industry and sorted them according to a predefined categorization. The finding of this study shed light on the development of coping strategies and mechanisms for the psychological well-being of the construction workers. These are the references in this study, and please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you for listening.
I think we're just waiting for Patrick to come back on. Oh, Patrick, I think you're muted.
Hi, Keyao. I believe one audience had asked a question. You can check the chat box about your data.
All right. So Roy asked question. One question is about the data source of meta. Did the data also come from literature or your data collection? Yeah, so for the meta-analysis, the data also from literature review. So in total, 26 effects from 12 articles were included into the meta-analysis. So simple answer to the question is also from literature review as well.
I don't know if Patrick's lost his sound at the moment. He doesn't appear to be muted. Just while he's working through that, thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I had a couple of comments. I really enjoyed the novel topic matter, and I found it really interesting. One of the things I was really curious about was to what extent do you think these are non-work factors? Because for me, there was a lot of them where I saw massive overlap between the systems and the structure of the industry and these factors. So for me, they blended a lot more. I found it really hard to reconcile them as non-work in my mind, and I wondered your view on that.
Yeah, I agree. So based on our literature review, actually we found many themes of predictors that could impact the well-being of the construction worker. So for this presentation, this is part of a study. So we try to identify different categories of the factors which could be influential part in resulting in the well-being outcome. So one of the parts we defined as a non-work individual factor. So we group the factor together, including the demographic characteristics, the personal character, including personality, job experience, or the life habit, or the physical health. Another kind of supporting from family, which is non-workspace support, family, friends, or community. So we manually group these factors together, and we name them as a non-work individual factors. So beyond this study, we also have other factors, such as the job design at their workplace, or the relationship with their boss. So these other factors were not included here. So DEI is only a part of our large-scale study.
Okay, thanks very much. Chrissi, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're fine now, Patrick. I'll let you take over.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. Okay, yeah, I see that Roy has put another question in the chat. Yeah, but I'll give someone else the opportunity to ask a question, so that maybe Eden can respond to Roy later on in the chat. If nobody asks a question. So, any other question from the audience or even from the other presenters?
Yeah, we'll be happy to receive any questions through our email. Yeah, we'll be happy to answer anytime.
Okay, so if time is allowed, I would like to ask one question. Keyao, okay, so you give the new concept, or that is the psychological well-being. Can you give us more description about the component of these factors? It's includes stress or just a new factor that you summarized based on the literature. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think this is a very good question. So psychological well-being is a concept which is well studied in other domains, see organizational behavior or psychology, but there's no structured concept constructed in construction literature. So in this study, we want to give a definition of psychological well-being in our domain first, and then we try to explore the predictors to psychological well-being. So based on the previous scholar, there is a categorization of psychological well-being into three categories: hedonic well-being, eudaimonia, and then negative well-being. So based on their category, we try to identify the predictors here. So actually, this construct is well studied in other domains, but not in ours. So we try to expand the study in other industry back to our community.
Okay. Yes. Thanks very much. Yeah, I see that Simon has put a question in the chat. I'll quickly read that. Okay. I have my own question, but I think I'll give the time to my friend Simon. It's Simon says, what will happen next? I guess he means what will be the next step. Is there a next stage of your research? I find it very interesting. I wonder about the psychological well-being factors that influence an academic's well-being. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of the factors that affect academic psychological well-being, as well as what do you plan to do next? After your systematic review.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I think this is a very good question as well, because the background of the study is that construction industry is a high-stress industry. So basically, we focus on the stress of the workers because of their long working hours or the extreme working conditions. So based on this, resulting in the situation that construction workers are mostly under much pressure during their work. So we want to explore the factors which could leading to affecting their well-being. So this, as I mentioned before, this is a part of a large-scale study. So we try to explore different themes of factors that could affect their well-being. So I think the findings of the factors here could provide practical insights for the researchers or practitioners in construction industry to design the management practice to improve or protect the mental health of the construction workers. So I think the findings of the study will provide practical implications So I guess this is one of the contributions here.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much for that. And my colleague Chrissi has drawn my attention to the issue with my camera. Yeah, and apologies for that. It's actually because I've connected my laptop to my large TV screen in my living room, because I struggle seeing the small font on my laptop, and so whilst the camera is on my laptop, but I'm looking at you guys on my TV screen. Okay, and so yeah, that explains why I appear to be looking away from the camera, and so apologies for that. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's jump straight into our next presentation.
Thanks, Patrick.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so our next presentation, it's by Liang. Okay, I believe we have our presenter here. Yes, we have.
Yeah.
So are you doing, will you be presenting? Okay, no. I guess you would answer the questions together, not present together, because we have your video. Okay, so I'll quickly just play the video and then we'll come back to the Q&A. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello everyone, this is Liang, Associate Professor at the Southwest Petroleum University and the Chengdu City, China. I'm glad to present the research work of our team to you. This is the outline of the presentation. This presentation will be delivered by me and my master student, Ms. Li Qing. I will be mainly responsible for the introduction of our previous studies on this direction, and my student will introduce you our research paper. As you may know, aging society is a global issue. For example, in UK, there are around 90% of the population that are elderly, while in China, elderly account for 40% of the total population. The statistics shows that there is also an increasing trend of the aging population all over the world. You can see the figure showing the increasing trend in mainland China. To cope the significant aging issue, the Chinese government adopt the policy of aging, that is to encourage and facilitate the elderly staying in familiar living environment rather than moving to somewhere else. Implementation of this policy could also bring several advantages, including decrease in risk of relocation and reduce of the cost for care service and so on. In the daily life, the elderly need to stay in different environments for various daily life activities, such as social interactions, take recreational activities, and so on. The living environment of the elderly could be broadly divided into three types, including the individual unit flat, common area of the various daily life activities, such the living environment of as social interactions, take recreational activities, and so on. The living environment of the elderly could be grouped them in three groups: actions, take recreational activities, and so on. The living environment of the elderly could be broadly divided into three types, including the individual unit flat, common area of the residential building, and the neighborhood community. According to peer study and literature, living environment could significantly influence on the quality of life of the elderly. We summarized the significant environmental factors and grouped them in three groups from the facility management perspectives, including the space management, building services, and the supporting facilities. We also proposed a model that hypothesizes the possible influence of the facility management on the quality of life of the elderly in individual unit flat, common area, and the community. You can see the figures. Several studies have been done by our team to examine the relationship between facility management and the elderly, quality of life of the elderly in different parts of the living environment. Elderly in different parts of the living environment. For example, we have conducted this study to explain the relationship between FM factors and the quality of life of the elderly in common area of the public and subsidized building in Hong Kong using the structure equation modeling method. This work has been successfully published on Habitat International. Another work is to examine the relationship between the facility management and the quality of life of the elderly in another type of the building, that is the private building in Hong Kong. This paper has been published on the facilities journals. Both of the studies have confirmed the significant influence of some FM. Both of the studies have confirmed the significant influence of some FM factors on the quality of life of the elderly. However, the findings of previous study implies that more studies are needed to reveal the relationship between the environment and the quality of life of the elderly. So in the next session, my master student, Ms. Li Qing, will introduce our recent attempt to study this topic. Li Qing, this is your turn now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Liang. Hello everyone, I'm Li Qing, and I will introduce current study of our team. As we all know, in community area, elderly can take plentiful activities, such as exercise, participate recreational activities, communicate with others. This activity can improve elderly's physical, psychological, and social quality of life. There are 4 main reasons for studying facilities management in community area. Firstly, the effects of facilities management in community are still unknown. Facilities management in community are still unknown. Secondly, the affecting role of different areas are various. Thirdly, community is a complex and changeable area, which is more difficult. Community is a complex and changeable area, which is more difficult for elderly. Community is a complex and changeable area, which is more difficult for elderly to control. Community is a complex and changeable area, which is more difficult for elderly to control. Finally, facilities management is a complex and changeable area, which is more difficult for elderly to control. Finally, facilities management in community is a complex and changeable area, which is more difficult for elderly to control. Finally, facilities management in community could influence a larger group of elderlies. Before studying, we need to comprehend area which management in community could influence a large. To comprehend 2 main concepts. The first one is facilities management, which consists of space management, building service, and supporting facilities. Distance and privacy are which consists of space management, building service, and supporting facilities. Distance and privacy are 2 main factors of space management. Previous studies show which consists of distance and privacy. Elderly's health. Poor privacy may cause elderly feel anxious. Similarly, ventilation, security, finish, and hygiene were found to be important components for building service and supporting facilities, respectively. Quality of life mainly include these 3 aspects. Physical quality of life refers to health, including pain, sleep disorder, mobility. Psychological quality of life is related with mental health, such as feelings, emotions. Social quality of life refers to one's interpersonal relationship with their family, neighbors, and so on. The current study aims to research facilities management in community area of residential buildings. To achieve this goal, systematic literature review of related theory, literature, and methods was community area of residential buildings. To achieve this goal, systematic literature review of related theory, literature, and methods was conducted based on the critical influencing factors above. Then a conceptual model was proposed. There are 4 main steps to establish mathematical model, including questionnaire design, data collection,
Hi guys,
data analysis,
sorry
and
for the
modeling.
issues we are having with the
Certain
video.
criteria was
Chris and
used to
myself, we are
invite
trying
participants,
to
such as
resolve
have
this,
lived
okay?
in
And so
current
just
residential
bear with
building
us,
for more
okay?
than 3 months. So the effects of relocation adjustment will be decreased. They had enough cognition so as to review of related theory, literature, and methods was conducted based on the critical influencing factors above. Then a conceptual model was proposed. There are 4 main steps to establish mathematical model, including questionnaire design above. Then a conceptual model was proposed. There are 4 main steps to establish mathematical model, including questionnaire design, data collection, data analysis, and modeling. Certain criteria was used to invite participants, such as have lived in current residential building for more than 3 months. So the effects of relocation adjustment will be decreased. They had enough cognition so as to comprehend and respond to questions. Based on the congruence of reliability, correlation, and regression analysis, the final model was established. This is the primary outcome. About first table, the first column shows the correlation coefficient. The second column shows the regression coefficient. Figures with asterisk indicate there exists significant connection between related true factors. Only factor with asterisk finger in both correlation and regression results would be included in final regression model, and the second one is related result. This is the first. Only factor with asterisk finger in both correlation and regression results would be included in final regression model, and the second one is related result. This is the final model. It shows that distance had positive effects on elderly's psychological and social quality of life. Ventilation positively impacts on elderly's psychological quality of life. About this result, why some facilities management factors can impact on elderly's quality of life, and why some result is inconsistent with previous researches are broadly discussed. For example, distance to related facilities such as markets, parks, could meet elderly's daily needs for food and recreation. Short distance can encourage elderly to participate in social activities. Thus, it's reasonable to find distance can impact on elderly's psychological and social quality of life. It's insignificant to ensure privacy in public places. Thus, no relation was found between privacy and the elderly's quality of life, and so on. That's all. Thanks for your listening.
Hi, Patrick. You're muted.
Oh. Okay. So, am I unmuted now?
Okay, so I will. Really sorry for the internet problem. I don't know why. The video was okay, but I don't know why. I also cannot read it carefully during the meeting. Patrick, can I answer your question now?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clearly, very clearly.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think Roy has a question, so I'll just quickly read Roy's question, okay? And then you can respond to that, okay? So quickly, okay. What Roy says that just a question about how to ensure. Okay, so Roy has a question about how to ensure the elderly were able to understand correctly questions in the survey. Okay, so especially if there were Likert scale, okay, questions to be scored. Did you need to read these questions and clarify them to the participants? So Roy wants to find out how you ensured that the people who responded to your questionnaire, they understood the questions. Okay, so what did you do? Okay.
Thank you for your questions, Professor Jing. Actually, we normally will conduct a cognitive test before collecting data. This cognitive test can tell us whether these elderly are able to answer your question, to understand and answer your question appropriately. So let's see the step before the formal data collection. And actually, I need to tell you that the work presented in this paper is a panel study. It's a panel study for the large-scale questionnaire service study later. And we mainly collect this data through the face-to-face interview. We recruit some students and teach them the way to collect data from their grandparents. We also hold the meeting to introduce them the research purpose, the meaning of the meaning of the linker to the meaning of linker, and let them to explain to their grandparents. Okay, this is our way to collect the data from the elderly.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, any more questions? Let me have a look. I think there's another question. Okay, Chrissi. Okay, Chrissi, do you want to ask the question, or do you want me to read it out?
I don't mind.
Okay. So then, yeah, you ask the question. Okay.
So I just wondered, because I didn't see sort of master planning design or design of buildings included as a factor, and I remembered just reading one paper a while ago about how people with dementia didn't get on well in cul-de-sac-based layouts, but got on really well in off-grid layouts because of the repetitive but not same nature. And I just wondered if that was something that you factored in or purposefully excluded from your study. Thank you. And also, I really enjoyed the presentation. I think it's very timely and important. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for your recommendation and your good questions. Actually, it's true that there are certain amount of the elderly who have the dementia symptom. That means they cannot recognize the location of the home, and they have also another health sample, like wandering around the space. Actually, I graduated from City University of Hong Kong under the supervision of Dr. Manu Liang. She has published several papers about the influence of the built environment on the daily life of the dementia. And I believe, I guess you may read one of her papers. But for our study, we just exclude those with dementia symptoms. As I mentioned, we conducted our cognitive test before the data collection. That means all the participants in this study have no dementia symptoms. But this is a really important issue to study. What environmental factors can affect the well-being, the daily life of dementia elderly. For a simple example, the dementia elderly cannot recognize the the corner, the corner. So you have to use very strong color contrast for them to better localize them, to better localize the position. So there are a lot of things to do for the dementia elderly. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much for that. I'm conscious of time. I have a question, but maybe if
short distance can encourage elder.
Sorry, Patrick. Maybe you can close this video. So I really don't know when.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I have a question, but I'll hold on to my question to the very end, so that if we have time, then I'll come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I'll ask my questions. Okay, but because of time, so let's move on to our final presentation. Okay, by Ehsan and the team. Okay, so I'll quickly play the presentation for us. Hopefully the video works, and then we'll have our Q&A.
Hello everybody, my name is Asnaashari and I'm a senior lecturer at Nottingham Trent University. I'm working on this subject jointly with Farah, Emmanuel and Andrew. The topic is multicultural perceptions toward happy homes, the case of Malaysia and Iran. While working towards a better understanding of happiness and homes, this research adopts frameworks that highlight key psychological traits of people and ties these with both soft and hard attributes of the home. Individuals seek happiness in many different places, whether physically or virtually, and happiness tends to be a common goal in many instances, for example, work, relationship, and home. This research is a part of a larger project that presents an exploratory study of the concept of happy homes in Iran and Malaysia. The aim is to investigate factors in homes that stimulate happiness while considering the international variances. So, this paper seeks to introduce user satisfaction in the form of happy homes to be one of the key determinants of project success. As such, all stakeholders involved in addressing client satisfaction can benefit from this discourse, including designers and construction managers. Exploring the meaning and causes of happiness has been a central feature of philosophy since recorded history. In ancient Greece, for example, Plato believed that virtue determines happiness. Bentham, a utilitarian philosopher, indicated that an individual's happiness is constituted by the aggregate balance of pleasures over pains. A common understanding of these philosophers is that happiness is far beyond sensory pleasures, such as more money, luxury shopping, or a bigger dwelling. Lubomirsky in 2017 identified the most influential determinants of happiness and provided their important weights as genetic 50%, external circumstances 10%, and intentional activity 40%. This means that 50% of a typical human's happiness level is outside of their control because it is genetically endowed. The 10% is tempting factors such as wealth, occupation, and living conditions, and 40% acquisitive habits in terms of what people do and how they think, so the perception of happiness. There is also a new stream for research on happiness rooted in neurobiology. In recent years, neuroscientists progressed by investigating the functional neuroanatomy of pleasure, which ultimately leads to happiness. They found that pleasure is not a sensation or a thought, but a hedonic interpretation by the brain system. They explained that 4 neurotransmitters in the brain trigger happiness that are dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. Dovey noted that although a house is an object, part of the environment, home is best described as a kind of relationship between people and their environment. So, physical and mental health and happiness of residents have a strong correlation with the attributes of their homes. These attributes have a wide range from newly replaced floors to dirt around the house. It is important to note that there are soft and hard aspects of houses, and these both affect the individual happiness significantly. Hard aspects include shelter, warmth, and hygienic environment, while soft aspects include community, culture, and social status. Aligned with this, the Good Home Report 2019 presents an array of emotions that depict people's opinion on their homes. These emotions include pride, comfort, identity, safety, and control. A qualitative approach was adapted as the study was seeking in-depth information on the concept of happy homes and also how occupants interact with the idea of homes and happiness. Convenience sampling was used to collect data, and 20 semi-structured interviews were undertaken, 8 interviews in Iran and 12 in Malaysia. Thematic analysis was implemented, and themes were developed from existing literature alongside findings from the interviews to enable a more in-depth data analysis. To develop a framework that visualized factors affecting interviewees' happiness in relation to their homes, first all factors were classified into 2 groups. 1, factors that create pleasure, and 2, factors that raise pain. For each class, there are 2 categories, cognitive and sensory. The impact of cognitive factors is larger on people's happiness and their effects last longer. Although sensory factors affect happiness level, they only trigger a temporary feeling. Therefore, for having a happy home, enhancing cognitive pleasures and reducing cognitive pains is the priority. In this paper, only the cognitive and sensory pleasures are discussed. Cognitive pleasures are broken down to 6 subcategories as individuality, peace, self-confidence, relatedness, aesthetics, and architecture. You may find a full description of each subcategory in the paper, but I describe 3 of them here. Individuality is a quality that distinguishes a person from others, such as beliefs, memories, and meaning. The reflection of an individual character in his or her home is a factor that reinforces happiness. In fact, objects and accessories that remind good memories affect happiness positively. So, items that people love and have a feeling about them can make homes a happier place to live regardless of their monetary values. Possessing a house raises the sense of pride and self-confidence in people. A suitable home with enough space, sought after location, and favorable style enhances the sense of achievement that is understood as a reward in the brain, which stimulates happiness. Interviewees considered a house as a valuable asset that can guarantee prospect and give them certainty in life. Our brain is designed to avoid uncertainty, and when it reaches a certain stable point, it will get happy by default. The convergence of the home condition to high goals in life is another aspect that influences residents' happiness. Hence, the concept of a happy home can change based on what people want in the future. The home that provides requirements for socializing is a happier place to live. Some interviews explain that they want to have more suitable furniture and larger space to organize events such as family gatherings and friendly parties. Interviews also elucidated that good link with their neighbors makes life easier as they can help each other in difficult situations and create a pleasant atmosphere to live. In addition to human, the relationship with pets makes people happy. The flexibility of the living space that enables residents to keep pets such as cats, dogs, and fishes contributes to their happiness. Sensory pleasures are divided into 5 subcategories that are putting on stamp, fantasies, architecture, tranquility, urban design, and connection to nature. I describe 2 of these subcategories here. Fantasies are mental images in the brain that are a reflection of psychological needs. People usually think if they realize their fantasies, they become absolutely happy. That is not always true. Nevertheless, interviewees curated fantasies about their future homes, including large garden, mountain views, and large spaces. Passion is another factor that affects happiness temporarily by generating a feeling of joyfulness. The thrilling features and exciting design elements like a tea house or a courtyard in a house can make its residents happier. Nature increases pleasant feeling and has a positive influence on people's happiness. Interviewees describe the link between their living space and nature as a critical factor of a happy home. Whether it's a small garden, a balcony, or a few indoor shrubs in the house, the relationship between the house and nature is a must. To conclude, I would like to emphasize that the concept of happiness is fluid from one geographic location to another. Many factors, including family structure, culture, age, past experience, and social norms, should be considered when researching happiness. Happiness is highly depending on the perception of people toward themselves and their dwellings. We can say that individuals have certain housing preferences, which when met, lead to an increase in happiness. It is more complex than this because individuals' preferences are not stable. Furthermore, our preferences are vulnerable to various biases, and this reduces our ability to understand which housing characteristics really makes us happy. Finally, I end up with 2 questions for future research. First, which methodology or instrument should be implemented to truly assess home characteristics that triggers long-term happiness in residents? It might be neurobiology, I don't know. And the second question is, what is the impact of different house characteristics on happiness of people living in it? I mean, which characteristics are more critical and have higher impact on happiness? Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, I can't hear you, Patrick. I think you are on mute.
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks, Ehsan. Yeah, it appears your voice has made people happy. You know, I was just going through the text, you know, and it appears, Simon and Chrissi, have been made happy by your, by your voice. So that's really good. Given that you are presenting on happiness. Okay.
Thank
okay,
you.
great. Okay, yeah. So questions for Ehsan. Okay. Yeah, for us, questions for Ehsan. Anybody with a question? Or it appears everybody's already happy. So,
Everybody happy, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Chrissi has a question. So, Chrissi, go for it.
I just thought that, honestly, your tone is just a lovely thing. Morgan Freeman probably should watch himself. I just thought this is such an important subject and really interesting. I love the way that you presented it because you just took us through really easily. So I enjoyed that. And I just wondered for you, what really stood out as the most important thing about happiness? If we could all do something to make our homes better, what do you think is the most important thing that we should be doing?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, the thing that I can say confidently is that this concept is a complex one. And, simplifying complex phenomenon is a dangerous task to do. And the thing I can say present is that it's completely dependent to your mood and your situation, your future goals, your style, the way you think, your values, your beliefs. All of these affect the way if the home is a happier place for you to live in or not. But something that we should mention, there are, some specific factors that should be identified. We end up with a huge list of stimuli or factors affecting happiness, but I still don't know which one is the most influential, which one creates real happiness. People usually talk about many things that affect happiness, but when they receive it, when they get it, they understand that's not that important. But some aspects are very critical. So my next job, our team is looking for a sort of, finding a method to measure these things, to understand which factors can really bring us happiness in life. What is a real pleasure? So it is a difficult, actually, job to do, but we are searching for the answer.
Thank you. I think Daniel Kahneman also did some great work on this around pay, so he might be someone to look into. I'll hand it back over to Patrick, but I just noticed that obviously Simon's got his hand up. I think Lee had asked a question in the comments. I think Simon had asked one too.
Yeah, Simon, over to you. So we have another happy committee member wanted to ask a question. So Simon, no, you are on mute, Simon. Please unmute. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it had unmuted. Thank you very much. I thought that was it's a very interesting piece of work, and it's amazing that we should be surprised. Perhaps, maybe we're not surprised that our homes impact our happiness. You know, I mean, I'm currently very unhappy because my home needs huge repairs. You know, and it's impacting huge amounts of my life at the moment. You know, so the situation is obvious. But anyway, the point of my question is that as I said in the chat, I've had a student look at this from an urban design context, and I can see that you have included that as a kind of a part of your paper. It might not have been necessarily the main focus, but what we concluded was that designers don't seem to have any knowledge whatsoever about this. They don't seem to even be aware, perhaps, that they do have an influence on the happiness of the users. Now, we were thinking more from the point of view of, say, I don't know, you know, a city centre design, a city centre redesign, say pedestrianisation or new parks or whatever. Designers don't know what impact they will have on the users. So the question, really getting to the point, is: have you looked at that, and are you hoping to provide guidance and information to designers on this?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Actually, you know, the concept of happiness was not that serious since 2012 that the United Nations published a report about the level of happiness in different countries. So it is not quite unusual that we don't have enough knowledge and background in different fields and disciplines about how we design spaces that promote happiness of people. So, you know, the knowledge usually is developed based on different, other aspects. I mean, for example, aesthetics or other things, but not focused on happiness. But this concept is attracting more attention in economy. So instead of GDP, people now are working on different, measures to see which society is happier, which society can actually generate or produce more happiness for the people. You know, so these are new things. But yes, we are looking for providing some insight or guidance for people who want to design houses. And as you mentioned, urban aspects are very important, because in our interviews, people mentioned about the pattern of the cities, their access, traffic, proximity to amenities. All of these factors were included in your data collection. So these are things that we should focus. But first, I think, again, I should emphasize, the first thing we should do is to understand what factors are really important, what factors create real happiness in life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see. I'm not chairing, of course, but I can see Chrissy's made a very pertinent comment there. You know, our designers given that opportunity. You know, and I think that then comes back to the client. You know, the clients need to, for homes, it's a different thing, but clients need to be told to the designers, make sure you include well-being and happiness when you design this. Otherwise, they won't.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting.
A change of mindset probably is required in terms of design and building facilities.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much. An interesting presentation, and a couple of should I say comments from me. I think that's because I'm conscious that some of the designs are done by design firms who may be in other countries. So, for example, we have large multinational, design practices who design for various, have design contracts for various countries. But the interesting thing for me is because you said that different contexts, what people perceive, to make them happy, is different. Okay, and so if you have maybe designers in another country designing for maybe a building or a project in another country, to what extent, do they think about what will make those other people happy, and not rather design based on what they think from their context, makes people happy? I think that's an interesting one too. And another thing too is is that, end users may not necessarily be homogeneous. They could be heterogeneous. And so, so how do you, cater for the happiness of a heterogeneous, group of end users? Okay. So yeah, interesting study. Thank you very much. But I think it's your voice that got the most attention. Okay. So, yeah. But yeah, so thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody.
For best voice at ARCOM, maybe we will put you forward for that award. But yeah, thanks very much to all of you, to our presenters, and to the people in the audience who asked questions, and also those who just sat in and then listened to it. So thanks very much, and have a happy rest of the ARCOM conference. Okay.